cadáver de una mujer localizada.
Hello and welcome to How Did I Die? Tonight I, Danna Sujey Salgado Dávalos, tell you my scary story. I am a 20-year-old mother whose life took place in Tijuana, Baja California. People knew me for being strong and determined, and I made ends meet by selling clothes online and sending them myself to customers. In the evening of March 30th, 2020, just as the sun was going down, I left to deliver an order. It was just another normal drop-off, and I was only 650 feet from my grandparents' house, where I knew I was safe. But as the time ran out, I didn't come back. Omex's neighborhood, which is usually very busy, went quiet because people were afraid. No one saw me alive after this. This episode goes into detail about the heartbreaking trip my family took to find answers, the community's call for justice, and the dark side of Tijuana that took me in. Stay with us as we try to figure out my last moments, how a city came together, and the wonder of what happened that terrible March evening. This isn't just a story about a missing person. It's also about how strong a family is, how powerful a community can be, and how much a mother loves her child forever. I lived a simple life with my grandparents, my 3-year-old son, on the busy streets of Omex in the middle of Tijuana. I turned to the internet to support my family by selling clothes and items. I have a strong sense of responsibility and a lot of drive. Being an entrepreneur wasn't just a way for me to make a living, it was also a way for me to make sure that my son's smile never goes away. However, on March 30th, 2020, a normal delivery offered more than just a deal. When darkness came out of nowhere, it weighed on it. When I left my house around 4:30 p.m., I walked out into the evening light with just a package and a lot of hope. I had no idea what would happen to me. The delivery was only 650 feet away. But as the minutes turned into hours and there was still no sign of me, my family and the whole Omex community became filled with fear. Overnight, my mom, Sujey Dávalos, went from being a worried parent to a strong example of drive. She walked around Tijuana's streets, calling out for me as her voice echoed off the walls. She had the cops on one side and a need to find answers on the other. At first, people in the community were shocked and ready to help. As word spread that I had gone missing, fear and determination took over. In the middle of all the chaos, though, important clues started to come out. A maroon sedan, an unexpected kidnapping, and a trail that went cold as quickly as it came up. This wasn't just running away. A person went missing, which shook a town to its core and led to a search that had never been done before. No one knew it, but the streets of Omex and the vast world of social media were about to become battlegrounds for a never-ending search for the truth. My community was torn apart, but from that tear came the strength of unity, which wove together the dreams, fears, and determination of a city on the edge. As the investigation goes on, the question that keeps coming up is, what happened to me, Danna Sujey Salgado Dávalos, on that terrible night? Come with me as I tell you my web of mystery, my hope, and my sadness that surrounded my disappearance. The shock of my disappearance had worn off, but Tijuana's heart started to beat with determination. The community's reaction was quick and clear. It went beyond just being worried to form a single front in the search for me. The call to action was strengthened by the creation of a group effort, led by the strong Todos Somos Eric Carrillo group, which was a bright spot in the often dark search for the abducted in Tijuana. Starting from the ashes of another tragedy, this group brought experienced hands and hearts to the forefront of my search. They showed the spirit and drive of a community that wouldn't sit still. With flyers, social media campaigns, and a strong will to find me, volunteers spread out across the city, searching every nook and cranny and the digital world for any sign of me. The way my family, the search collective, and the community worked together was a sign of unity that showed that even in the worst times, people could find light in working together. But this search did come with some risks. Even though there were threats and the constant shadow of organized crime, the volunteers kept going. Their work painted the streets of Tijuana with my face, a constant reminder of the search for truth in the face of fear. As everyone worked together, the case started to come together like a dark fabric, showing patterns and leads that hadn't been seen before. When my papers were found in an empty lot close to my house, it gave the search new life and a sense of urgency. This hint was like a double-edged sword. It gave me a real connection, but it also made me think of what could have happened to me. The search grew, with volunteers and police combing through the rough terrain of hills, ravines, and the city's lost corners, which were silent witnesses to the city's untold stories. As the days turned into months, my search turned into a more in-depth look at the problems that Tijuana was facing, ranging from the terrible effects of organized crime to the many people who had disappeared, leaving families holding on to thin threads of hope. Every day of the search brought people in the community closer together. Every rally cry echoed the shared desire for justice, and every lead followed showed the way to finding out what really happened when I went missing. As the seasons changed, so did the way the police looked into what happened to me. The search teams, the community's protest, and my family's never-ending search for justice started to pay off, though in the saddest way possible. Find My Personal Papers wasn't just a clue. It was a lighthouse in the dark that led the hunters to a horrible truth they hoped they would never have to face. The next gathering had never been seen before. The hills and valleys around Tijuana were once quiet, but now they were filled with the voices of about 200 volunteers. Their steps were unified in purpose. They searched every part of the land in the hopes of finding me living, but they were also ready for the worst. In the middle of this huge area of hope and hopelessness, my family went through its darkest times, and helped by a strange and scary call in the night. The voice on the other end of the line, which was cold and without remorse, told them how to solve the puzzle that had been keeping them up at night for 8 months. The suspicious tip from the unknown caller led the searchers to an empty lot that was marked by the marks of past tragedies. In the safety of invisibility, it was here that they found out the unthinkable. The search for me reached a heartbreaking peak when the body of a woman was found buried under a layer of lime. A key moment in the story of my absence was when my mother told everyone that she had seen me. It hurt so much, and everyone in the community grieved together. Actual tests to prove who I was were just a procedure. My family knew it was me as soon as I was found. But this realization did not mark the end of their trip. It was an order to do something, a demand for justice in a city where too many people had vanished. My story, from the full and happy life I lived to the sad end I met, became a rallying cry for change. It started conversations about safety, the effects of organized crime, and the rights of people who have gone missing and their families. The city of Tijuana was at a crossroads after my terrible event. The finding of my body stopped the search for a much-loved daughter, mother, and friend. It also sparked a fire of determination in a community that has been through too much loss. The city's grief over my family's loss became a lighthouse for the many others who are still missing, whose stories have not been told and whose ends are unknown. As my mother, Sujey Salgado, came to terms with the terrible truth of my situation, she turned her grief into a loud cry for justice. The funeral, which was streamed online during a global pandemic, was more than just a goodbye to me. It was a formal meeting of a community in grief and support. It showed the strong will of people who keep looking for light even when there is a lot of darkness around them. The arrest of Christian Nene, aka El Guerrito, was an important, if only first, step toward holding people accountable. Still, the road to justice is still full of problems. As I look for justice, the threats against my family show how dangerous it can be. They tell me of how organized crime affects so many people and how weak those who stand up to it are. My story is a small part of a bigger, scarier story that happens in Mexico and especially in Baja California. The shocking numbers of murders and disappearances show that there is a systemic problem going on that goes beyond individual tragedies and is affecting everyone. Despite the sadness, there is a story of strength. Families and search groups like Todos Somos Eric Carrillo continue to be resolute in their determination to demand action, attention, and change. We are told that my story, while unique in its details, is part of a larger story of loss and strength as this episode of How Did I Die comes to a close. My legacy and the fight for justice in my name are like the struggles of many people in Tijuana and beyond, who won't let their words be shut down. It's not over yet for me and all the other people who have vanished. There is pain on this road, but there is also deep love and unwavering hope.